Welcome ladies and gentlemen back to another Genshin Impact video. This game has a variety of different characters and it's hard to make a guide where I tell you which characters to use on a specific activity because, well, you might not have that character yet. So I created this guide in a more streamlined fashion. Instead of telling you which characters you need, I will tell you which elements you need or what kind of support you need per floor. I will explain how to set up the floors so you can get to the end with the characters at your disposal. The Spiral Abyss is this game's endgame activity. The Abyss consists of floors with 3 chambers. Conquer those chambers to climb to the next floor. Each chamber has 3 bonus objectives to earn stars. You will need to earn 6 out of 9 stars on each floor to be able to unlock the next floor. At first you will only have 8 floors. These floors are the Abyss Corridor. The rewards from this corridor will not reset. After the corridor you will unlock the Abyssal Moon Spire, which currently has 4 extra floors. The rewards from the Moon Spire do reset every 2 weeks. Each floor has a leyline disorder. This could be a buff for a specific element to your team and extra damage on a specific type of reaction. The disorder will be active on the entire floor for all 3 chambers. Then each chamber has a specific set of enemies that appear. That way you know what their weaknesses are and how to counter them. Each floor has enemies with specified levels. Your main DPS on that floor needs to rival that level. For your support characters, be sure to level them up as high as you can after you leveled up your main DPS. But from floor 5 onward you will have to split up into 2 teams, so you will need 2 main DPS. Be sure to follow the guide to see which characters you would best invest in if you're lacking the materials to level up multiple characters. If a floor would require 2 of the same element and you would not have them, it is still possible to clear the round, but you will have a harder time to do so. In that case you will need to level up higher and have higher level artifacts. Speaking about artifacts, when I mention a main DPS, the general consensus for these are attack-based artifacts. A general artifact built for DPS is an attack percentage hourglass, elemental or physical goblet, depending on what kind of damage your DPS does of course, and a critical damage circlet. This is just generalized though. If you have all attack, that's fine as well. If I talk about support characters, you will need to build them with energy recharge and or elemental mastery, since you will use support characters to create reactions and try to fill that burst gauge faster. With all that said and done, let's begin. Floor 1. The leyline disorder reads, pyro damage is increased by all party members by 75% and overloaded damage is doubled. Chamber 1 consists of electro slimes. Chamber 2 consists out of hilichurls and midachurls with shields and axes. Chamber 3 has hilichurls, shield midachurls, large slimes and assassin mage. They're all level 25. As the leyline disorder already makes clear to you, pyro is the way to go. You can set up your party with pyro and an electro user. If you have 2 pyro users, be sure to put both of them on a team for an extra attack boost. The pyro character does not have to be your main DPS, but it will be greatly appreciated if it was. A great setup would be main DPS, support pyro, electro support, and any 4th. You don't even need the 4th. Fighting with 3 is possible as anything. But if you have a healer, put them in. Your main can also be anything. Just make sure you have either main or support pyro and an electro support. There is no real strategy for this floor, just be sure to stay healthy and combine pyro and electro for overloads and extra damage. Floor 2. The leyline disorder reads, cryo damage is increased by all party members by 75%, and the duration of the frozen status is greatly increased. Chamber 1 consists out of electro slimes. Chamber 2 consists out of hydro slimes and blazing midachurls and a hydro abyss mage. Chamber 3 has a hydro semichurl, blazing midachurls and hydro abyss mages. They're all level 40. The disorder gave it away already, cryo will be your ultimate bet here. Should you have access to 2 cryo characters, your crit rate against frozen characters is increased. The cryo could surely be your support as well. An example setup, main DPS, cryo support, electro support and pyro support. Electro for electro charge reactions and pyro for melt reactions. The only strategy you will need to utilize is the maximum frozen time. Try to freeze the hydro enemies as much as you can, then melt or super conduit them into oblivion. Floor 3. The leyline disorder reads, increased swirl reaction damage by 300% and its AoE by 100%. Anemo damage dealt by all party members increased by 75%. Chamber 1 has a collection of many slimes and hilichurls. Chamber 2 has a collection of basically every treasure hoarder. Chamber 3 consists out of a ruin guard backed by blazing axe midachurls. They're all level 45. The current Anemo characters in the game all have at least one ability that can gather enemies in either a cyclone or in a smaller skill that sucks them together. Utilize this as much as possible with any support that you have available. Anemo reacts with everything except for Geo, so whichever is your strongest support, put them on the team. 2 Anemo characters will shorten your skill cooldowns as well. That's something to keep in mind. The real strategy here is to place support skills in the chamber, which you can use to set up a swirl reaction with your animal character. By gathering the enemies in one spot, you can have many swirl reactions which lead to a buttload of elemental particles for your burst gauge, and you will have a great upkeep of skills and bursts. Floor 4. The leyline disorder reads, electro damage dealt by all party members increased by 75%, and electro charge reaction damage increased by 150%, and its AoE increased by 100%. Chamber 1 consists out of Hydro Slimes and some Simichurls and Hydro Abyss Mages. Chamber 2 has Hydro Slimes, some Helichurls, and a Blazing Axe Minochurl and Abyss Mages. Chamber 3 has more of the same, and they're all level 50. In this chamber it is advised to run with Electro, Hydro and Cryo. The reason for this trio is that you can freeze the Hydro enemies with Cryo and super conduit them with Electro. They will get a decreased defense this way, and you can easily defeat them with Electro-based attacks afterwards. The reason for a Hydro character in this setup is for the Hilichurls and Minochurls. You can make them wet and then Electro charge them for extra damage and damage over time. If you could add a Pyro character as well, you could take out the Cryo enemies a bit faster, but Electro can do the job as well. Running double Electro will grant you more elemental particles on reactions. Floor 5. Now from this floor onward is where it gets tricky. The road forks into two paths, so we need two teams on each side of the road. The leyline disorder reads, when your character's HP is over 50%, attack and defense are increased by 25%. Besides this, when your HP is over 80%, attack speed is increased by 20%. Chamber 1's first half consists out of Cryo Slimes and Electro Hilichurl shooters. The second half is Pyro Abyss Mages. Chamber 2 both halves consist of Treasure Hoarders, but they have similar weaknesses to the enemies in Chamber 1. Chamber 3 first half has an Electro Assistant Mage accompanied by Handyman Treasure Hoarders, while the second half has a Pyro Agent with Electro Treasure Hoarders. And they're all level 55. We can safely deduce that we need a Pyro character in the first half and a Hydro character in the second half. From this point onward, you will need to back them up with great support or a greater DPS if the necessary element is only support worthy in your team. So Team 1 needs Pyro for either main DPS or support. If your Pyro is your main DPS, then I would suggest an Electro support and if possible a healer. Pyro and Electro can be easily switched places here. Team 2 needs Hydro. Most Hydro characters are support, so be sure to have a strong main DPS which you can support with your Hydro character. The strategy here is to kill the Cryo Slimes as soon as possible with Pyro abilities. And when you encounter the Abyss Mages, reduce their shields to dust with your Hydro attacks or abilities. When it comes to Chamber 2, if you notice you're having trouble, you can put an animal character in either team to gather them much easier. Floor 6. The leyline disorder reads, using an elemental burst increases all party members' attack and defense by 6%, which stacks up to 10 times. From 5 stacks onward, attack and movement speed are increased by 30%. Chamber 1's first half consists out of Cryo enemies and Hilichurls, and the second half are Pyro enemies and Hilichurls. Chamber 2 first half are a buttload of enemies of varying elements, while the second half is more Pyro focused. Chamber 3 first half is more Geo focused, while the second half is entirely Pyro focused. They're all level 60. Just like the previous floor, we need a Pyro in the first half and Hydro in the second. To best aid these elements in each of these chambers, you would need Anemo and Electro to back them up. Ideally, both teams will look like this. First team, Pyro, Electro, Anemo and Geo. The second team, Hydro, Electro, Cryo and Anemo. As I said, this is the ideal world, which is not for everyone. If your first team has Pyro and Electro, that's enough and you'll be able to survive. A healer would be a nice luxury. For the second team, Hydro and Electro would also be sufficient here, but if you can't, Cryo would be a suitable replacement for the Electro spot. The goal here is to pop as many bursts as possible, and that's why having an Anemo character on either team or ideally on both teams would aid this greatly, since the swirl reaction will grant more particles for your burst regeneration. I added Geo on the first team since in Chamber 2 and 3 there will be enemies with Geo shields. A Geo character can break these more easily, but it's not impossible to do it without one. Again, the strategy is to pour out the weaknesses of the enemies first, encounter a Cryo Slime, Pyro skills, encounter a Pyro Abyss Mage, Hydro skills. Suck them together if possible with Anemo, especially in Chamber 2. Floor 7. In my opinion, one of the harder floors. The leyline disorder reads, crits will generate elemental particles and orbs, and this will occur once every 15 seconds when a crit is landed. Crit damage is increased by 120%. Chamber 1 first half has Cryo Gunners, Hydro Gunners, and Electro Hammers. Second half has Cryo Gunners, Pyro Slingers, and Anemo Boxers. Chamber 2 first half has Cryo Gunners, Geo Chanters, and Electro Hammers. Second half has Geo Chanters, Pyro Slingers, and Anemo Boxers. Chamber 3 first half has Hydro Gunners, Anemo Boxers, and Electro Hammers. Second half has Pyro Slingers, Electro Hammers, and Animal Boxers. They're all level 65. What makes this floor especially hard is the fact that these skirmishers will pop their shield rather quickly after being engaged. Their shields will only be ripped to shreds by the correct element. Hydro shields need to be cancelled by Electro, Electro shields by Cryo, Cryo shields by Pyro, and Pyro shields by Hydro. The Animal Boxers only shield their teammates in regular intervals, but can be dispatched rather quickly, so it doesn't necessarily need Animo. But the Geo Chanter summon a Geo Shield, which needs to be cancelled by Geo. You will need to correct elements in both halves to make sure this will work, or you will run out of time since you don't have enough damage when their shields are active. And the Cryo Skirmishers are a pain in the ass since they do triple S tier damage, which is hard to dodge when you are near them. For the first team, I would suggest Pyro, Electro, Cryo, and Geo, and your second team will need Pyro, Hydro, Cryo, and Geo. The issue here is that you actually need these elements. It can be hard for many people because you might not have these elements 2 times. So you'll need to compensate with raw damage. If you don't have 2 Cryo characters, put your only one in the first team. I wouldn't state character names, but since you got to this floor, you will have received Jungling, which means you can put Amber in the first team and Jungling in the second. You can switch them around, but I believe this is better. If you rolled on a beginner banner, you will also have Noelle. Put her in the first team and Geo Traveler in the second. Lisa and Kaya in the first team and Barbara in the second. This will be your ultimate team setup if both teams have a main DPS among them. Like I said, I don't like naming specific characters, but this floor is a major pain in the butt and you need specifications in slots. The chamber will go as follows. First, 2 skirmishers spawn, and upon their death, 3 skirmishers take their place. After the 5 are defeated, that half of the chamber is done. If a chamber has a Hydro Gunner, this one needs priority, as he heals a buttload to his companions. Defeat him as soon as possible. Then you shift your focus to the Cryo Gunners while evading the other skirmisher left. Whenever they pop their shields, swap to the opposing element and dispatch your shields and continue the damage with your main DPS. If there are multiple skirmishers on the field, aim for this priority list. Hydro Gunners, then Cryo Gunners, then Animal Boxers, then Electro Hammers, then Geo Chanters, and then Pyro Slingers. Pyro Slingers are extremely easy to dodge and they won't come at you, so keep them last. Geo Chanters only cast a shield to protect their allies, so he will mostly be rooted to one spot, so he's not really that dangerous. Electro Hammer has quite a range on his charge attacks, but still easily dodged. Only look out for his 3-part swings. You might think his pattern is done, but then another swing comes around the corner and boom, you're hit. The Animal Boxers suck you into his melee range, so be especially careful when you see him do this. The Cryo Gunner swings his weapon back and forth in a wide arc, spraying cryo in your face. You will eat an enormous amount of damage if you stay inside, and the attack lasts forever. Taking his shield out from afar is the best way to go since he falls to his feet afterward, and then you kill him. Hydro Gunners heal, so he must go as soon as possible. Floor 8. Now, I was genuinely surprised about this one. It was easier than Floor 7 in my honest opinion. The Leyline Disorder reads, when HP is under 60%, attack and defense are increased by 50%. When HP is under 45%, normal attack and movement speed are increased by 30%. When HP is under 30%, crit rate is increased by 20% and crit damage by 40%. Lots of percentages. Chamber 1 first half has Cryo and Hydro Abyss Mages, second half has Pyro Abyss Mages. Chamber 2 first half has a Ruin Guard backed by a bunch of Hilichurls, second half as well but Pyro based Hilichurls. Chamber 3 first half is a Cryo Regis Vine, and second half is a Pyro Regis Vine, all level 70. You might have already guessed it since it's obvious from the other floors as well. First team needs Pyro, second team needs Hydro. I would suggest to pair both of these with Electro if possible for better reactions on all chambers. The reason I found this floor easy is due to the fact that the bosses in here are focusable. Sure, the Ruin Guard backed by the Hilichurls might pose a bigger threat, but with the right focus, it's really easy. If possible and you have 2 animal characters, be sure to divide them amongst the teams to gather those Hilichurls in Chamber 2. Be sure to stay close to the Ruin Guard as well and focus him first since he can shoot the rockets when you get far away. The Regis Vines just need their shields depleted by the counter element, and then just burst them down. We all have done the Regis Vines now, so it will be second nature disposing of them. And there you go, all floors completed. You can now level up some more and try to do 3 stars in all chambers if you weren't able to do it before. I hope this video was helpful to you and that it earned your subscription. I thank you for watching this video to completion, you absolute legend. Please give the video a like so others can enjoy the content as well. This was Galaxy Brain Glitchy, have a good one.